this adjustment, how have you, SASSA, NDA, and the DSD have made contributions towards the BEE? I think, Chairperson, it's important to say, as we've been procuring the PPEs in particular, we have made sure that we follow the prescriptions provided by the instruction by the National Treasury, but also because we are already in the space through the NDA in terms of building the capacity of cooperatives, including registering them. We have made sure that most of our PPEs are procured from such cooperatives, which is part of the BEE contribution that we've been making, beyond being guided by the National Treasury regulations. The next slide then goes in detail in terms of providing a high-level performance. Slide number 14, the high-level performance have been asked to say, how have you performed by the end of the fourth quarter? You will see we did not do exceptionally well, but of course we are a learning sector and will be improving, and I can assure you that in the financial year that you have started, there's been some improvement because we had to shift as well some of the work that could not be completed in the fourth quarter to now. You can see DSD only achieved about 60%, but I can tell you that things change when you look at the overall financial year. This changed dramatically to about 65 or so percent. SASSA had 71 together with the NDA, but as I'm saying that we would be improving with regards to this. On the finance, on the expenditures for the three sectors, for the NDA, it does, for the DSD, social development, it does reflect on the over-expenditure. And this specifically, the 800% that you will see that Chairperson is in relation to Program 2, which was as a result of the disaster as was declared in March for us to respond quickly to the impact of the COVID. And so we had to then make sure that the grants that we pay is later. So that's what is done. But the detail as well is contained. If you move to slide number 17, I won't go so much into detail. I did speak about others. There was some slight under expenditure as well when it comes to Program 2, which is related to the appeals, the legal services cost that we are anticipating could not all be done. But importantly is with regard to Program 4 and 5. Program 4, the under-expenditure is because of the reprioritization of what I spoke about earlier on the 93 million. For us as government to put more effort towards responding to gender-based violence. This was in response to that particular fight. The 33 million of that is spent in terms of employing about 200 social workers that will be working in terms of providing the much-needed psychosocial support to those victim-friendly facilities that you have identified. And the balance of 6 million, which is a larger part, was dedicated to the Kusalega one-stop centers so that we are able to establish much more services, especially we did that in the 6 provinces. And with regards to Program 5, it's about the events that have been annually being undertaken under this program, and we have seen some of the savings because we could not do some of those events as we were concluding the year as a result of the fact of the COVID-19. Moving to SASSA, the next slide, and NDA, I'm sure colleagues, the relevant colleagues and the CFOs of both entities will be able to give, will see there was an over-expenditure in terms of the payment of capital assets to SASSA, as well as things look fine with regard to the ADAs. And I want to stop there and hand over to the DG to do the conclusions. But however, we are noting that we have been doing this work without any challenges. We thought we need to move to slide number 20 and say, as a portfolio, we've been able to, there's been some areas where, as this portfolio, we've not been able to deliver as planned, whilst other areas have been able to make sure that we are able to fully realize them. And what we have said here is that for those commitments that were not able to be fully met at the end of the quarter, they have been transferred to the current financial year, as I did indicate that some of them were already been able. But however, the demand for our services has increased with COVID not being overcome, and also with the impact of it in terms of increasing on poverty, social ills, unemployment. We are expecting that, of course, it will have impacts to our services. That's where I'll end, Chairperson, and then hold over back to Mantuba. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have a minute left, and I thought it would be important to move to the next slide, where we deal with the key opportunities and lessons learned. There's a number of lessons that we've picked up from this pandemic, and chief amongst those is to always ensure that we are ready and to have vigorous systems that are agile to adapt to shocks such as disasters and emergencies. Another very important lessons we've learned is that we've had to significantly scale up our investment in ICT infrastructure, not just for staff but also in terms of our programs that we utilize, so that members of the public would be able to access our services much easier. We've also had to build in very strong digital monitoring and evaluation systems that will give us real-time data to enable us to ensure that we make evidence-based decisions with the assistance of real-time data. But also importantly, we've had to significantly upscale our research agenda and ensure that we build into the work that we are doing very strong impact evaluation studies of plans. And you'll see that we've got 3 currently that we are going to be busy with. The impact of the 350 social grant on members of the public. We're also going to be looking at the youth perspectives around the pandemic, and we're also going to be looking at the evaluation of our food distribution program. I think the other important thing it's taught us is really to build and leverage on very strong partnerships, particularly with the private sector and NGOs. And this is what we've been doing. There's no way that we can do this on our own as a government and as a sector, and we've been really leveraging on those partnerships, and we must really appreciate the work that has been done, particularly by our NGOs in this regard. Lastly, Chairperson, we've had to ensure that we enhance our coordination at both provincial and local government levels, including the national level, so that we're able to reach the length and breadth of the country and ensure that our services are delivered in a much more effective and efficient manner. So that's where I'll leave it, Chairperson. I just need to indicate that I'm not alone with Shenge here. We've got the CEO of SASSA as well as the CEO of the NDA, and of course we've also have our Deputy Directors General, including our CFOs as part of this meeting, which will be able to respond to all the necessary questions. It's 9:30, Chairperson. We're stuck within your time.
Okay. Thank you so much, acting DG and your team. I will then request the honorable members to indicate who would like to engage with the presentation.
Hlangweni, Chair.
Honorable Hlangweni. Lenzana.
Shaky Mom.
Honorable Shaky Mom.
Dennis Joseph, thank you.
Honorable Joseph. Honorable Joseph, or else? I have Honorable Ntlangwini, Honorable Ndenzana, Honorable Kaiso.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Peters.
Honorable Peters. Okay, do I have any other honorable member? Thank you. If any, Darren, if any other honorable member wants to speak, you let me know. Honorable members, why don't we try 3 minutes for a start each and see how far we go. Honorable Hlangwini, please start.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the department for the presentation. Chair, on the get-go, I just want to find out by the department, what is the challenge, the challenge for not having a fully digitalized program for the food parceling scheme? I mean, everyone or almost everyone these days have a cell phone. And that would eliminate the corruption that are happening within the scheme of the food parceling. Because many of these food parcelings is just some people are just corrupt, giving it to friends and family, and in some instances even being used for voting purposes, for voting a specific way. So why can't this program not be digitized, where a person receives a message on the phone, here is your food parcel money, go to Boxer, or go to your nearest ShopRite, or go to nearest place, collect the money of this value, food for this value. It will really help the department with sorting out the corruption in the food parceling system. But for me, it seems Jay,
Remember,
someone is interrupting me.
yeah, so
But
remember, please, mute, please mute. I can see a name shame. Yes. Okay. I stopped the watch, Honorable, and please continue.
thank you. But so it just seems to me that there's a general reluctance for moving into a digital space with this food parceling scheme. So I really would like to have been any work research being done by the department to fully digitalize the food parceling scheme, because the way we are continuing, it's just not helping. And then okay, on the grants on 350, there are numerous people that have said, and they normally forward the names to us as members of parliament, as the public representatives, that I applied for this grant and I know I haven't worked for about over 2 years or so. Why haven't I received anything? They have declined me. One or two, I've received the first month, the second month, yet I haven't received it. What is the hold up? So in such cases, where do we report or forward such cases, DG, of active people that we know that have applied and they said to us they were declined in your process? Thank you very much, Chair. If I have another bite, I will come back later on after my colleagues. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Honorable Lezana.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues and the team Social Development. Let me welcome the presentation, Chairperson, and try to rush within this period of 3 minutes. Chair, on the question of recruitment of social workers, let's appreciate that. But now, why should it be on a temporary basis when you've got a huge number of these youngsters who are out there unemployed? Is this a temporary arrangement to create as a long-term challenge going forward, wherein they will get to be terminated? When will they be redeployed when they are getting terminated? Chair, on the advocacy campaign, can it be actually, put out there so that for us to know, particularly the rent and cents, which are actually involved there? Because there's now a tendency of this campaign only to find that the way of charging money in one way or the other. So I'm trying to rush on this question of prioritization of social grants, particularly the food parcel. I would have another view, a bit contrary to my colleague, in terms of saying, for those who are in the deep rural areas, told today that what was the performance after you had stopped the involvement of the ward councillors, who we believe are the food soldiers? Or can we today, Chairperson, get either the department throw mud into ward councillors or clean ward councillors as far as this one is concerned, because it has been run wild over the media? I'm trying to rush. What is the balancing act going forward? This question of food for parcels versus avoiding the creation of a welfare state, particularly when they come in, because we don't want to create a welfare state while at the same time we want to sit with that our people down there are catered for. And the last one, Chair, would be, what is the department's role in what I've termed here in school psychosocial programs, like drug and alcohol abuse, stress and related disorders? Let me hold it there, because I'm not sure if I still have time.
Yeah, take quickly.
The last one, Chair, would be on the question of the 350 grants applications. Those in rural areas found it difficult. We had cases where some could not apply, one, because they could not access this sophisticated digital arrangement, and some delayed even in applications. Won't there be a second round if we do have some who are late? That's your person.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Honorable Mlenzana.
thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the department for your presentation. I want to solve social workers. I think the problem is even bigger. Thank you, colleague, for mentioning that. I think it's a very, very important point. Remember that a lot of money is spent in the country to fund these students that are going out there and studying, particularly in social field. And what we find is that there's thousands of them now remain unemployed. And I think one of the problems that the department is facing, in my understanding, in discussing this with the minister the other day, is that the limited amount of resources that is coming, particularly for social workers. Now, added to that, Chair, these social workers, in fact, they formed a group now, a WhatsApp group, and there's thousands of them that are complaining that they are now qualified, but they're not getting an opportunity to be able to find work. But now, given the fact that there's going to be a high unemployment rate. We know violence is going to increase because of the situation in the country as a result of COVID-19. You're going to need a lot more social workers around, more field workers on the ground. Shouldn't the department be looking at accommodating these people? And I agree with my colleague, you can't only take them on a temporary basis. They are supposed to conserve their intention and then be absorbed in the sector. And I think there's a great need for it. Now, one of the questions I want to ask the department, are you able to give us a figure of how much of money you are allocating and providing to the NGOs and NPOs on the ground, and whether we get value for money, whether there's an impact? Because gender-based violence is on the increase. We don't find these lot of organizations going and deal with the problem on the ground. So should we not be concentrating or redirecting a lot of those money in employing social workers and field workers and letting them go and be the eyes and ears of our people on the ground? Now, Chair, in terms of the development of food parcels, what we don't have is a database. Every ward should have a database of everything to do with people in that ward. How many people, how many women, how many disabled, how many unemployed, everything about their skills and everything. We can have that. I think we can go along with in being able to deal with that. Now, a lot of money was set aside for gender-based violence, according to the president. I'd like to know, where is that money actually being diverted? So that where is it being used right now so that we'll be able to deal with it? Chair, my problem is the massive problem in the country with gender-based violence. And what we're doing is dealing with it after the fact. And I want the department to tell me what processes and mechanisms we're going to put now in eradicating it by starting from the ground and establishing what went wrong, why is it going wrong, how are these people living, what is the social economic, is there a substance abuse? So that's why I believe these social workers and field workers will help the department, help the country in identifying problems in this before somebody becomes a perpetrator or a rapist or a murderer. So I believe that that's what we should have. Chair, I'd like this department to give us a complete deal on the PPs that department, because you know what we've established, Chair, this committee, the overpricing, maybe all these departments give us, we can find out who has all the relevant departments, who the service provider, who the actual culprits are, so we basically deal with it. I don't know if I've run out of time yet, Chair.
Yes, you have.
No, I have time.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Honorable.
Thank you, Chairperson, and my apologies for coming into the presentation. I just want to, I'm covered by most of the points raised, but I just want to, in one paragraph, summarize my experience. According to what I've heard now, Chairperson, the official said that obviously there's challenges, and it's good to admit that. And then he referred to lessons. And he used 3 words. He said that there were shocks and disasters and emergencies. The 3 words. And I must tell this department up front, my experience, and many people in South Africa would agree with me, that the shocks and the disasters in government experience was brought into government also by this department. Not just talking about COVID-19, even pre-COVID-19, all the various experiences. But of course, everyone is faced now with this emergency of COVID-19, and we expect the department also it's to the challenges, as you admit, because it's new for everybody. And then the other point is the private sector NGOs. The official admit they need them, but it is important to say that to the public. It's important to say that to the private sector, and it's important to say it to the NGOs, not just us as parliamentarians. And because we don't need in this case that the court overrule and tell the department what is important and what is priority to serve the public and the poorest of the poor and the unemployment. So it's important to build this trust with staff, with us, with the public, and with parliament. Because poverty and employment and social assistance is crucial in this time. We need it. And we hope the minister and the department can come with a plan to help people of South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Joseph. Can I have Honorable Paiso?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. Ultimately connected. Was struggling. Sorry for joining late. I just want to have a sense from the Department of Social Development and SASSA. Once one was doing oversight in the province here in the state. I picked up that you seem not to be working well with the department, that is SASSA and the department. So I don't know, perhaps you would explain how do you work together there, because I at some stage had to pick up that matter, even the exclusion of councillors, especially by SASSA, in the operationalization of the issue of persons. On the gender-based violence, yes, I'm a bit covered there by Joseph there, because it's one of the issues that attracts a lot of attention when it comes to lockdown. So we have seen your report and presentation study that we have picked up a number of challenges when it comes to gender-based violence. So I just want to understand the support, budget support base of this program to fight against gender-based violence, a very clear one. I do understand that the presentation says you have picked up number of, have incidents of gender violence has increased. I'm sure the budget says when it comes to gender-based violence, it has also increased. Direct fund, I just want to get clarity whether the finalization of food parcel, is it something that is still coming, or you mean you have dealt with that 23 million distribution of food parcels? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiso. Can I
No,
check?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Chair.
Okay.
Just was one point. I understand with the payment of 350 rands, some in the disadvantaged area where their families make a 10 rand, 50 rand deposit into once in their account, they are set to be denied any assistance of the 350 rands. I just want to get the clarity. How did you manage that? Because it doesn't mean when you donate the rand to a person of a family at the time, it therefore has been getting income on continuous basis. I don't know. Can you just clarify that confusion there? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kaiso. Orun Klangwin, one question, if you still have. Honorable Klangwini, you there?
Oh, sorry, Chair. No, I'm covered, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Lenzana.
No, thanks, Chair. I'm covered.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, I'll come to Honorable Sheikh, ma'am.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just the last one, and I'm not asking the department, I'm actually telling them this. What you don't have now is the process that we used to have before. That when you're giving these child support grants and things, there is no mechanism to ensure that these children that these grants are intended for are going to school, they're attending school regularly, they are performing, they have any other psychological problems or behavioral problem and need counseling, so you can identify it from there. Can you please tell us how you can deal with that so that you can follow it and make sure that it's going to those intended children, because it's not, and children are not going to school. I can tell you hundreds of children in one area that I know here in Mitchell's Plain that haven't seen the inside of a school, but grants are being paid to you.
Honorable Joseph.
I'm covered there. Thank you very much.
Honorable Peter.
No, I'm covered, Chair.
Honorable Peters, sorry for getting you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And once more, my apologies for connecting late. We've got a serious network problem where I am. Chairperson, I'm happy to see the Minister here. And welcome, Minister, and thank you very much to the team from DSD and the agencies. Minister, my question is related to what Honorable Tlangwini and the others would have raised with regard to the issue of the food parcels as well as the social relief of distress, 350. And also a matter related to the coordination or clustering or arrangements of SASSA. Honorable Minister and the senior officials, I think it is becoming so cumbersome to, as a member of parliament, to interact with SASSA with regard to matters. The issues that honorable members are raising would probably not have waited till today had it been easy to work with SASSA. In the old system of SASSA, where they had the regional executive measures in place for persons, it was very easy for me to interact with a REM in the Northern Cape. I'll make an example about the Northern Cape. Since the challenges that we have been having with regard to social relief of distress, the grant for the unemployed, it has been very difficult to engage with SASSA with regard to these matters. I've been informed, Honorable Minister, that SASSA coordinates the Northern Cape and the Western Cape, as well as the Eastern Cape, from the Eastern Cape. And I just want to indicate it is very difficult for me to engage with regard to matters of the most vulnerable, ordinary people, the members of society who really depend on the state for their sustenance, to talk to somebody who I cannot relate to. When there were problems with regard to the homeless, we could not engage with a SASSA because they don't even sit in the Northern Cape anymore. So it became so cumbersome. So I just want to know, Minister, if SASSA is going to cluster according to the 3 clusters that have been formed that they are working on, when Mpumalanga, Free State and KZN is one cluster, Northern Cape, Western Cape and Eastern Cape one cluster, Gauteng, Limpopo and Northwest cluster, it means then the district model government cannot apply when it comes to SASSA. But I also know, Minister, with regard to these people who have applied, they are already or they have already applied, those who applied the money of the 350, but they were told they're going to receive the money for July. I just want to know, how do we deal with that type of situation right now? Because this is where stories of corruption are going to be, where people will say our monies have been eaten by officials or by the minister or whatever. So I just wanted to find out with regard to that, Minister. But also, Minister, between municipalities and DST, who is exactly responsible for the homeless? Because you would run from one department to the other local government sphere when you have challenges with regard to these people who need to be put in shelters and there is no one who responds. I would want to make an indication. there are two people that since the 26th of March, I've been reporting to DSD in the Northern Cape, who are living in a bus shelter in Mahareng on the N8. And these people are a challenge for even the municipality, because between health and social development, no one seems to want to know who is responsible for those type of people. So my issue is mostly related to this. I support the notion of probably introducing a voucher system or alternatively digitalizing, but I know digitalizing, like Honorable Mlenzana, will be a problem for other communities when it's a problem, like the example where I'm seated right now. So I know that I arrived late, but these are the few areas that I really wanted the minister to be aware of, but also the CEOs and the acting DG of DSA. Thank you very much.
You can still pick up one more question you have.
You put me on the spot now.
It's okay.
No, let me leave it. No, the issue of the social workers, I think thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Honorable members. Okay, let me welcome the presentation. Good morning, Minister. We were told that we're having some challenges as far as connectivity is concerned, but we have had a presentation from your team. From my side, can I just check the relationship between SASSA and the post office and DSD? How would you define the relationship, as it were, at the moment? You remember the transition that we had. How is it working? Any challenges and getting any challenges from the post office? If you could just share that with us. Secondly, Honorable Minister, the question of 350 Rand grants, is it true that if you missed to get it the first time, you don't get paid your money, which is in areas, even if you have been certified as somebody who's unemployed? If you could just check that, and not to preempt your question, if that's true, then I would say, but that money has been budgeted for 1, 2. Why would we punish somebody that he or she was not able to get the grant the first month, and then no, we're only going to get the second and third? I would like to know exactly what is the position as far as that is concerned. I think the 350 Rand payment, do we pay it through the banks? Or if we do, you'll agree with me that the majority of the people who are not working are unbanked. So what exactly is the situation there? I think let me leave it at that. Safe to say that local government, it's a cost structure. There have been instances where questions of fraud has been mentioned, but I always take a view that we shouldn't throw the baby with the bathwater when it comes to that. Let's deal with corruption where it is. But councillors are a part of the local government, which is a constitutional structure. So sometimes I find that there is a tendency to legitimize them. And I don't think that as government we should be part of that. If there's corruption, there's still corruption. But again, it's a structure which is there, which I think we should be able to work with it. Can I allow the minister to come in and the team? Thank you very much, Minister. We've said we have time until 10:30. Thank you, Minister.
Chairperson, I guess the first thing I have to do is to sincerely apologize. Load shedding just arrived as I was sitting in front of the desk exactly at 10 to 9. So I had to get out of the house, drive and find a place I can be able to connect, because it was critical for me to connect. And unfortunately, we can't even connect in the office. I'm sure the DG must have explained our situation. That having been said, I am here and I wish to thank all the members for their questions. I only got here when Honorable the Imam was speaking, and it was also towards the end of his inputs. Firstly, I must thank you for your inputs, your questions, and also to be able to say to you, yes, I agree. Even prior to COVID-19, we were facing challenges, but I believe as a department, we were really on a good track. Firstly, from agreeing that Department of Social Development with its entities cannot work in isolation. Hence, we formed what we call the portfolio. And I have been working very hard, myself and the rest of my team, to make sure that the portfolio is understood by everyone. You cannot have SASSA going that way, NDA going that way, and the department going that way, and having the resources that we should be pulling together being not brought together for us to respond to the challenges. Secondly, I have also said to the department, now that we have COVID-19, we really need to utilize this time to make sure that our response matches the scale of our problem. And we know the scale of our problem. We knew the scale of our problem prior to COVID-19. And therefore, COVID-19, while painful and devastating as it is, it has given us an opportunity to take a step back and look into what do we have. You speak about the issues of SRD. The CEO of SASSA and my team will say that already by the end of last year, I was already looking at the challenge of having SASSA being the one responsible for social relief of distress, a little bit of it being in the department itself, a little bit of it being under COGTA, and a whole lot of this being in separate places. And I said we need to re-engineer the whole thing. At the end of it all, when all is said and done, it is about us responding quickly, efficiently, and to the needs of our people and to the felt needs of our people. So I would like now, because I was just coming in as having coming in late, I would like, Chairperson, through you, if that's permissible, to get everyone else to respond to some of the questions that have been raised. I will also respond to the questions that have been raised at the end when all the others have been responded to, because I'm not sure what other questions were there. So I will ask the department, the agencies, to please respond, and then they will give me time towards the end for me to be able to round up. Thank you very much, Chairperson, if that is acceptable.
That's perfect, Honourable Minister.
Okay, thank you very much. I must acknowledge the presence of the Honourable Minister. Good morning, Minister and Honourable Chairperson. I think we could do it this way.
Sorry, Linton. I hope you did pass the apology of the DM. And yes, I hope you did that. You didn't forget that.
Yes, Honourable Minister. The apology of DM was duly noted. Okay. Perhaps, Minister and Chairperson, what I'd like to suggest is if we could give about 5 minutes to the CEO of SASSA to respond to some of the elements raised on SASSA, and then if we could give the CEO of NVA about 3 minutes or 4 minutes or so to respond to the issue of volunteers. I'm going to ask Fanny to respond to the issues, who is our CFO, relating to social workers and the funding thereof, and then I'll come in and respond to some of the other areas. CEO.
She's not unmuted. Please unmute, CEO.
My apologies. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable members, DG and the Minister. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to the issues that have been raised, particularly with regards to SASSA. I think the first part that becomes important to respond to is one of the 350, because I think that is one issue that has been sharply raised. But first and foremost, it's important to explain that we have to date received 7 million applications for the SRD 350. And what we normally would do to make sure that we people don't double dip, we would put them through a particular process in terms of ensuring that they don't receive other grants, and the grants that we would check anomaly to make sure that they don't get a UIF grant, and also to ensure that they're not getting a SARS grant, and check them also through a NSFAS to make sure that they're not receiving currently a NSFAS grant, and would also normally check through SARS to make sure that those people are not employed. The other area that we look at is check as whether people are actually not employed in the public service. So we've received also the database of the service so that we can know that we also check through there. And we found interesting in some instances people that have been receiving grants in other areas that have also applied. On the issue of why people have been said to be employed when they are not, it's because the initial database that we used for UIF had people that have not been employed the past 2 to 3 years. And what we then asked for a new data from UIF, and we checked the people over that database. And after that period, we found that another almost 1 million people actually qualified. And we have since went at those people that were found initially and told them that they qualify, and we already paid for May. With regards to people that apply late, if you did not apply in May, it therefore means that you will actually get the grant at the time of the application. And we have deployed NDA teams to be able to support those people that are actually in rural areas and don't have access to be able to apply for that. So that process is worked with together with the regions.
Honorable members, please mute, please mute, please mute, please mute. Just check. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of those people that have been declined that actually qualify, there's also a process of appealing, and they can apply. They can either go to HTS, SD, sasa.gov.za, or COVID SRD appeals at sasa.gov.za to be able to make an inquiry over and above through the telephone, and also do it up at 82046853. They ask or any questions they want to answer. The friendly questions remain in the number that we have there.
Please repeat the WhatsApp number.
The WhatsApp number is 082068853, and it's got a number of panels, whether a person is applying, person is checking their status, whether they've been approved or declined, or they just want to check their frequently asked questions.
Yeah, so I ask you to repeat that one, because I'm sure there are lots of people who are just listening who definitely would like to use the WhatsApp number. But thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. On the issue of councillors not included in the identification, work together with all the different stakeholders in terms of what requirements of the people on the ground are. The challenge we had was in instances where we ended up being accused of giving parcels only to people because of their political allegiances. That's why the councillors will not necessarily assist in the distribution. They may assist in terms of identifying people, but they would work together with the regions so that we're not found in a difficult situation. On the issue of determination of income, the directives with us to 350 are saying a person should not receive any income. We have not started actually even verifying as whether people are receiving income or not, because we're still contracting with the banks to see as whether they can assist us in terms of checking for those that have got accounts to make sure that over a period of 3 months consistently people have not been receiving a lump sum amount, which means that they're receiving income. But currently we are not actually looking at that at all. The key other issue that I wanted to clarify to Honorable Peters is on the issue of us having consolidated the regions. This Honorable Peters does not mean we don't have people in the regions. There are general managers continue to the people that are to people in the regions, despite the fact that we have a high level structure, which we're actually piloting to see as to what is it that is going to work. It doesn't mean that the engagement with the structures of SARS not exist anymore. People for the orders in the different provinces. I think so they don't take much time. I will end there, but we'll send through all the answers if there's anything we haven't answered.
Thank you. Tamo?
Sorry. I just want this CO. Are you saying that in every region or province there's somebody that Honorable Peters can be able to interact with, and all of us? Yeah, what I was saying. Can you please repeat this?
Yes, definitely. In each and every region, the general manager responsible for grants, because that's the business of SASSA, is the one responsible for engaging with all the different stakeholders in the region, including in the district, because managers actually report in grants for their core business with regard to SASSA. yes, we are piloting this process, but it was after having established that we can look at how we can actually consolidate, but without actually with us continuing to ensure that people are serviced. And I think what we will do is we'll continue to engage with the regions in instances where some of the people are not attending next joints because it's the case, again, because we use the approach.
Okay, thank you.
Chairperson.
Yes, quick.
Chairperson, I just want to ask the CEO of SASSA, is she saying SASSA as an agency of the state that is responsible for the most vulnerable is reverting back to the demarcation of the apartheid government in terms of coordination? Chairperson, we from the Northern Cape will tell you the challenges that we have to an extent where we ultimately gave up on engaging the Western Cape with regard to the sharing of assets and everything else, and to be coordinated from another branch. I'm about, as a member of parliament, not only speaking about issues related to grants, but there are different sources that when you are not satisfied or able to speak to the district manager, you could speak to the provincial, which was called at the time. Everything related to all districts at once. Now, right now, it means I must engage with 5 districts. I'm asking that question because for me, the clustering becomes a problem. It brings back the memories of the old demarcation. So I just wanted to find out, is SASSA saying there is something wrong with demarcation? It's also good that we're discussing with SASSA when the demarcation board is now busy redemarcating the country for the coming elections. So it will be good for us to understand the rationale.
Quickly.
Honorable Peters, it doesn't mean that, as I indicated earlier, the region still has a person that is responsible for the districts. The GM grants, all the districts would report to the GM grants, which therefore means that we can never go back to where we come from. And this is a process that we're piloting currently. We have 3 high-level clusters. We are going to continue to engage and decide as to what number of clusters do we have, but we can never go back there, ma'am. Thank you.
Peters, please don't switch off your video. Okay, continue, DG.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Can I perhaps ask the CEO of SASSA to vary for about 2-3 minutes of NDA, sorry, National Development Agency, and then I'll come in shortly after that. Samo?
Thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Honorable Minister, and colleagues. On the side of National Development Agency, in the main, we are for capacity building in the civil society organizations, which we keep a database of nationally. In this period, when we were entering the COVID space, we had to deploy our volunteers within the civil society organization that we fund, that we had partnered with, that we had supported. These organizations cut across the NPOs, the NGOs, including the cooperatives. So the services that we do is capacity building. Within the capacity building, we do in the main advocacy and skills development. So advocacy, we were putting together the information that is shared by Department of Health on the COVID matters to be shared with communities in their local languages in the main. And secondly, since Minister had indicated the portfolio approach within which SASSA and social development are working, it is a very civil society organization that gave us these volunteers as part of the program of capacity building that NDA does to assist on one, the facilitation of the application of the grant, the 350 grant, because in the rural areas, the outcry that was coming up sharply was that they don't know how to access this thing using their gadgets. Others, the cell phones that they had were not compliant or were not user-friendly in application thereof. So these unemployed youth came in to assist those communities to apply. And on the part of the queue marshalling, to make sure that the communities observe the regulations and social distancing, they came in handy, which is already a part of advocacy in the part of the capacity building of NDA. And thirdly, on the social development space, we were handy in assisting the community development nutrition centers in ensuring that during this period when there was level 5 lockdown, community could already access the food, not in the manner within which they usually access the food, where they would go to the services center, but the volunteers will take the food to the household as per database that is kept by the CNBC, which is Community Nutrition Development Centers. The total budget for these was at 1.8 million for April, where we're just focusing at the initial stage of the project. And it was mainly covering the stipends and covering the administration fee for the civil society organization that we fund, because we had to stretch them beyond their ordinary uptake of the volunteers. And the PPEs as well, we spent around about 8 million to make sure that we don't expose them to these infections as they continue to do their work. On the part of the gender-based violence, we had partnered. The mandate of NDA commanded the organizations and other departments and private sector would contribute the funds through the National Development Agency, because we have set of due processes that we administer before we can release these funds. So CARA fund is now being administered by National Development Agency from as at December last year, which is 2019. From that fund, there was a transfer from the department to disperse such funds, and right now we've managed to disperse to about 23 civil society organizations, which are mainly dealing with gender-based violence. So it's a process that is still continuing. Due diligence assessment and site visit, we scaled down to 160. From the 169, we agreed that we are going to make sure that each and every applicant that has reached the stage after due process will get something to the effect of responding to the gender-based violence sketch that we are facing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, CEO. Chairperson, I will take about 5 minutes and then leave the other minutes for the Minister. On the question raised by the first honourable member with regards to the food parcel.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
Can we also, before we part this one, add the actual breakdown of this 1.8 million down to what level, perhaps? Because we have to avoid paying costs. If we could have the warm bodies, that weather. Not now, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. With regards to the question raised by the first honourable member with regards to food parcels and why we're not moving into e-vouchers and digital vouchers, we think that the future is possibly going to look like, or the future is going to be us working through a hybrid model. The honourable member that just spoke now made mention that indeed there are some members of society who still don't have cell phones, and it may necessarily be difficult for them to still access e-vouchers through cell phones, etc. We agree, and we think that we're going to possibly look at a hybrid model of the combination of food parcels and e-vouchers, and we've received a number of unsolicited bids where we are going to be looking at these areas. We are very mindful that food parcels can be very labor intensive, it can be very cumbersome, but the important thing about vouchers is that it allows recipients and elements of choice to be able to buy a variety of products, as opposed to being given the same products that they may necessarily have at home. But the other most important thing is that it provides them, because of this choice, a serious element of dignity, and that for us is fundamental and rather important. But we want to say, with the unsolicited bids that we've received, we're looking at them. But the critical thing for us, Chair, is that we're able to allow citizens to be able to not only go to your mainline stores and supermarkets, but they must be able to ex-spaza shops, their local spaza shops, and be able to vouchers and be able to exchange these vouchers for food parcels or for whatever it is that they want to buy at the shops, and thereby contributing to the circulation of money within those environments. And of course, this is a local economic development, and that's very fundamental for us. The email address can also be found on slide number 8. With regards to the possibility of extending the support measures, we're glad that we're presenting to the right committee. This is the Appropriations Committee responsible for the funding. We are very much aware that the fiscus is extremely under strain, but this is the right committee to be able to lobby additional funding for such elements, and it's important. But we are looking at various policy options to be able to reduce poverty and inequality, and to extend our safety nets. Chair, with regards to the social workers, I forgot. I thought Fanny was going to come in and deal with that. But we want to say that what COVID has done is that it's actually provided an opportunity for us to be able to employ much more social workers. You will notice a trend in the past number of years that almost every Minister of Social Development would, when they deliver their budget vote speech, will always speak about 5,000, between 5,000 and 7,000 unemployed social worker graduates. And this is an opportunity that COVID is providing for us to be able to bring in those social workers to be able to be utilized. If we had our way, Chairperson, we would actually have more social workers employed than police officers, because social workers are fundamental and crux to society, particularly on areas of behavioral change and of other areas. So we think that that's important. We are now utmost to work not only as government to begin to bring in or absorb social workers, but we're also working with private sector partners and NGOs to be able to consider absorbing social worker graduates, because we think that this is the most important time to actually have social workers. I must indicate that so the social workers that we've just employed recently are specifically to deal with areas relating to COVID. With regards to the database for food, for those who are receiving food, we completely agree, honourable members. It's imperative that we have a database so that we know exactly how many people in each district and each local municipality are in need of food. And I can give two very fundamental examples which are doing exceptionally well. I think it's the food bank program in the city of Ekurhuleni, and in KZN you have the program called Sugumasake. Through those programs, provinces are able to have a good sense of how many people in each district are actually are food insecure, and we're able to then be specific in directing those levels of support. It also helps us so that we don't duplicate the number of food parcels that are being provided to a number of people, so that it's equally shared amongst people in those areas. So we completely agree with that element. I must indicate that, Chairperson, with regards to, there's a member that raised the issue of the department contributing towards shocks and disasters. Perhaps we'd need to just be clarified in that area. We're of the view that we don't only present to this portfolio committee, but the record of previous portfolio committee meetings actually have been bringing in those private sector and more so NGOs that we've been working with, and we write letters to acknowledge them, engage with them on a regular basis, etc. If you are to remove the work of social development, you would send grants around, particularly in these 6 months. An average of around 2 billion rands is being spent by the Department of Social Development, particularly through grants. If you have to crowd in all the other support mechanisms, you're looking at about an average of 25 billion rand per month. So it's not possible that we're contributing to disasters or any shocks, but in essence, we remain committed to improving the quality of lives of our people and ensuring that they have a better quality of life. We're certainly available. We're amenable to provide the list of PPEs service providers, but in line with slide number 13, we're pretty confident that we've utilized the preferential PFA, and we followed necessary processes, particularly to procure from small businesses. And I must also indicate that in all provinces, we make sure that we are able to ensure that the cooperatives, particularly those cooperatives who are making masks, we are trying to ensure that all provinces, because we render them the support. The minister's spoken about the portfolio approach. I won't go into that.
Linton, please, the time. Isn't it that if the meeting is ending at past? Look what time it is. Yes. I don't have time anymore. Can you just finish, please?
Thank you. Maybe I can hand over to the minister at this point.
Minister?
No, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Minister,
yes.
We'll give you 10 minutes, please.
Oh, okay. No, that being the case, let him complete the last point, because I thought we're just ending at past. My apologies.
No, we're ending at past. We're just being a good committee to you.
Thank you. I'll just say that with regards to Honourable Peters' question around the responsibility of COPTA and DSD in terms of shelters for the homeless, we want to indicate that in essence, COPTA has been running the space. What we've been able to do is to work very closely with COPTA, and of course you'd recall that under level 5, we were directed to then ensure that we get all people from off the streets into temporary shelters, and ours is to provide services within the shelters. And I must indicate, Honourable Peters, that what we've done and what we've managed to do is that this has also given us an opportunity. We find opportunities in everything that arises, Honourable Peters, and we've been able to provide soft skills to these people, the homeless people who have come off the streets. We've put into our shelters. We've been able to also work a reunification program wherein they are reunified with their families, but we've also been able to run a number of programs with them, particularly as abuse interventions, and we think that this is working pretty well. Lastly, with regards to the employment stimulus package, I want to indicate that we're in discussions with relevant authorities in this regard to see how best we can provide additional support to the ECD sector, particularly with regards to employing monitoring and evaluation and compliance officers. I think I'll leave it at that, Honourable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. My first point really would be to say that maybe it might be a good idea for us as a department, not necessarily to always wait for this moment when we are being called upon by the Appropriations Committee to make some of the presentations and the information that is necessary and adequate for the appropriations. COVID is making it even much more difficult for us because we can't have the same time that we used to have when we can sit in front of you, you can see us, you can ask the questions, we can respond. May I make a proposal that out of here, we will have to maybe send you proper, fully answers that are not rushed like the way we have been able to make our presentation today. I also want to say, Chairperson, firstly, as a Department of Social Development, we believe that we cannot single-handedly deal with the issues of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, including the issues of gender-based violence. What we need to do is to continue to strengthen the intergovernmental relations and work very closely with the departments in particular that are related to creating a conducive environment for our people. But also as a department, we believe that a lot of the work that we need to do really needs to focus at empowering provincial structures and local structures. Because as I sit here in this meeting, those are the people on daily basis who are confronted with the challenges of the people. And when honorable members are raising the issue of, say, for instance, we are saying that there's issue of councillors. I want to say, for me, as a minister, I believe that the role of councillors is very important. Councillors are the people who are supposed to know where are the vulnerable, where are the indigent, where are the people, so that they then be able to respond. But of course, councillors are not supposed to be the ones that are involved in the distribution of food parcels, but you cannot remove them from being part and parcel of understanding and appreciation. So if you have NGOs, NPOs, the department itself, through the Department of Social Development at provincial level, they need to be able to coordinate and assist in directing the interventions that we are having. But of course, the issue of people who are involved in corrupt activities, people who are involved in taking the food parcels and giving them only to the ones who they favor, has been condemned by us as a department, has been condemned by the president, and we are very clear that our systems do not have the councillors in the midst of it. And I think the department, in its presentation, I hope they did clarify exactly that. In fact, we can give you a breakdown of our own NDC, the production, the nutrition programs that we have on the ground. We can give you all the information as to where is that, who gets given the contract to actually distribute the food. That must be available to yourselves. And then coming to the issue of SASSA and NDA not sitting in Prof Jog in the Northern Cape. And I really would like to say that, Honorable Peters, from the very beginning, I have min-max with the MECs, and may I say to this meeting, I work very well with the MECs. I call the MECs, we have our min-max, we have special min-max because we can't have the normal ones that we have because the demand is really big for us. So I work very well with them. Even the one in the Western Cape, I work well with the MEC. But of course, when it comes to other issues, then going to the ground, it becomes a different story altogether. But that's something that I am committed to working, because when all is said and done, as a Minister of Social Development, my responsibility and that of NDA and SASSA and myself is about the well-being of South Africans, irrespective of what political background they come from. And then with regard to the issue of the 350 grand, I think there's many lessons that have been learned here for other future activities. What I'm saying to SASSA, NDA, and ourselves, let us look at the overall package that we have. Let us look at how else can we improve. It's 25 years of democracy. It doesn't mean that the systems that we have used before are relevant for today. They were good, they delivered, and hence we have social grants and everything. But we're in a different environment altogether. So the system that we are putting in place must respond to today. And part of responding to today is working together. Lastly, Chairperson, the issue of the volunteers. I wish the volunteers.
Sorry. Please don't end without touching on the post office.
Yes, I'm coming to the post office. The issue of the volunteers. The volunteers, for me, I see them as foot soldiers who are going to be beyond what we are doing now. I see them connected to the other structures that deal with community development. They need to connect to the social workers. They need to connect to, my view is these volunteers being trained properly. They can be your foot soldiers to go house to house, street to street, community to community, connect also to the community structures that are relevant. But of course, COVID is making it difficult for us, but I do want to thank them because they braved it. They went out there and tried to assist those who are not who are unable to be assisted. The issue of SASSA and the post office, I'll be upfront and frank, there's a problem there. I've already written a letter to my counterpart, Minister Stellanda Beni-Abrahams. We have had an agreement that me and her must meet. She has a letter sitting on her desk and we'll deal with it. But also, let me say, last year already, when I came in here and I realized that there were some problems, even in the structured agreements, I already initiated a process where SASSA, DC, Post Office, and Post Bank come together to a meeting. Because again, I found a situation where one goes the other way, the other one goes the other way. And then the president demanded from us a report of what is going on. So I requested that we always work together and not in isolation. I want to say to you here, we would have to maybe something, because Appropriations Committee is very important in the accountability of monies that go to different areas. We are looking for better coordination, better working together with the post office and the post bank, but we're looking for new ways of doing things. We can't keep on hanging on to something when actually it is not delivering in the manner it's supposed to deliver. If we need to change whatever agreement we have with them, by the way, the post office and the post bank itself, they've got their own internal dynamics that are now having a problem with us. In fact, I'm a problem, but because we have responsibility, we'll work with them to make sure that we come out of this situation we're finding ourselves in. We have to pay our people. The post office gets attacked. The post office gets robbed. Sometimes the money doesn't get there. And it's painful to hear that elderly people went to the post office and then they didn't get the money. They've been trying to sort it, but sorting it in this way is not adequate. For me, the day I will have a peaceful sleep is when I don't see nobody standing in a queue and going back home because they didn't get the money. Nobody getting out of a taxi and dying getting out there because they were going to get the last penny that they have. This system must change in order to make sure that our people get dignity in the entire process. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. As you can see, the issues are made big and varied, and that's a very important department that we are dealing with. And from our side, let's just apologize. We are working under a very strict time frames. But I definitely was still going to invite you, have more time to engage. Even something that you are talking about, you know, it was a big thing some years ago. But thank you very much for making time, Minister, acting DG, CEOs, and the whole delegation. Minister Nankumpako, engwavuma enquthu enhlazatshe emahlabathini empofana, but they haven't seen what's being spoken about. So I'm sure there are many other areas that we haven't reached, and I would like you to just make an audit of some of these far-flung places. But thank you very much. Those are the people I get calls in terms of even the 350, and they are like saying, we've been listening to you telling us about the banks, about this one, about that one. And so we will do our best to look for all other options which will make it easy for people to access the 350. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That is the minister's home.
Oh, I didn't know.
He rightfully chose my home.
Chairperson, can you allow me to ambush the minister and throw an invite to the Alfred Nzo district of in the Eastern Cape? What we will do, Minister, we'll invite you via Zoom, but we'll take it outside.
Yeah, please thank you. You are ambushing her.
I'm used to ambushes, by the way.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Minister and the team.